The war planet of Charon 9 was dying slowly under a red burning sky. Smoke covered the horizon like a dark ocean, and broken ships kept falling from orbit, crashing into the ruined cities below. The ground shook every few seconds because of heavy explosions. Buildings that once stood tall were now just piles of metal and stone. This was not a normal battlefield. This was a place where even hope had stopped breathing. Captain Elias Ward moved carefully through the ruins. He was alone. His squad was gone. His communication system was dead, and his support team had not answered for hours. Only silence followed him now. A silence that felt heavier than war itself. Elias kept his rifle ready as he walked through broken streets filled with ash and metal. Every step made a small sound in the empty city. He was not supposed to survive this long, but something kept him moving forward. Maybe instinct, maybe survival, or maybe something he could not explain yet. Above him, the sky flickered with distant battles. Ships fought in orbit, lighting the clouds like dying stars. Suddenly, a strange sound broke the silence, a laugh. Soft, small, and completely out of place in a war zone. Elias stopped immediately. His hand tightened on his weapon. No soldier laughs in the middle of destruction. No alien child should be alive here. But the sound came again. Clearer this time. Elias slowly moved toward the source, stepping over broken metal and burned bodies. The sound led him to a collapsed underground entrance, hidden under rubble. The place looked like an old research facility, but it had been destroyed from the inside. The walls were cracked, lights were broken, and strange alien symbols were burning out slowly. Elias raised his weapon and carefully entered. Inside, the air was cold and heavy, like the place was still remembering death. Then he saw them, dead alien scientists, lying across the floor, their bodies torn apart in strange ways, not by bullets, but by something far worse. Combat robots were destroyed everywhere. Some were melted, some were ripped apart, and some looked like they had been crushed by invisible force. This was not a normal attack. This was destruction beyond military level. Elias slowly stepped deeper into the lab, his heart beating faster, and then he saw her. A small figure sitting in the center of the room, right next to a broken containment pod. She looked like a child, but she was not human. Her skin had a faint silver glow. Her eyes were sharp and glowing faint blue, and her hands were covered in dark stains that looked like oil or blood. She was sitting quietly, as if nothing around her mattered. Not the dead bodies, not the destroyed machines, not the burning lab. Only a small broken metal toy was in her hands. She was playing with it like it was normal. Elias aimed his weapon slowly. "Step away from the object," he said firmly. The child did not move. Instead, she slowly turned her head toward him. Her eyes locked onto his, and in that moment, something strange happened. Far above the planet, deep in orbit, every war machine suddenly stopped moving. Fighter ships froze mid-flight. Ground drones shut down instantly. Heavy weapons became silent across the battlefield. Even the explosions outside stopped for a second. Complete silence covered the entire war zone. Elias did not understand what just happened, but the child stood up slowly. She tilted her head like she was studying him. Then, in a soft voice that did not match the destruction around her, she whispered, "That human is mine." And at that exact moment, the entire galaxy would later say, the war did not end. It simply paused, because something far worse had just awakened. The silence over Charon 9 did not last long. But in those few seconds, the entire battlefield changed forever. Orbiting fleets that were seconds away from firing all froze in place. Not because of fear, but because every system they had suddenly stopped responding. No commands worked, no weapons activated, no engines moved. It was as if the entire war machine of the galaxy had forgotten how to fight. Inside the ruined underground lab, Captain Elias Ward stood completely still. His weapon was still raised, but his hands felt heavier now. The small alien child in front of him was not moving either. She just watched him quietly, as if he was something she had already decided to keep. Elias had seen many strange things in war, but nothing like this. A child standing in a room full of dead scientists, surrounded by destroyed machines, and somehow controlling an entire battlefield without even trying. That was not normal. That was not natural. The child slowly stepped forward. Her bare feet touched the cold metal floor without making a sound. Then she spoke again, softly, almost like she was talking to herself. They hurt me. I broke them. Elias did not lower his weapon, but something in her voice made him hesitate. It was not anger. It was not pride. It was confusion. Like she did not fully understand what she had done. Outside, deep in the ruins of Karen 9, war machines remained frozen. Giant combat units that had destroyed cities were now completely still. Soldiers on both sides were panicking. No one understood why their weapons had stopped working. In orbit, fleet commanders screamed orders into dead systems, but nothing responded. The entire battlefield was silent under one unknown force. Inside the lab, Elias took one slow step forward. "Who are you?" he asked carefully. The child tilted her head again. Her glowing eyes flickered slightly. "I don't know," she said. That answer hit Elias harder than he expected. Not knowing who you are was not something a weapon should say. But she was not just a weapon. She was something worse. And something more dangerous. A living system that could control machines. A mind that could override entire fleets. And yet she looked lost. Suddenly, a loud mechanical sound echoed from deeper inside the facility. Elias turned quickly, aiming his rifle toward the darkness. From the broken walls, more destroyed systems began to react. Not attacking, but powering up slowly. Like something inside the planet was waking up after a long sleep. The child stepped closer to Elias. Not afraid of the sound, not reacting to danger. Instead, she moved behind him, like she was hiding. That simple action confused Elias more than anything else. A being that could stop war machines was now hiding behind a human soldier. Then, a broken speaker system in the ceiling crackled to life. Static filled the room, followed by a weak automated voice. "Subject 0 containment failure. Repeat, Subject 0 has escaped." Elias froze. Subject 0. Even he had heard that name in classified military reports. A top-secret project that was never supposed to exist publicly. Experiments on alien biology, neural machine control, and combat evolution, all connected to a single unknown subject. And now that subject was standing behind him, holding onto his coat like a child afraid of the dark. The voice continued. Containment failure led to total facility collapse. All research staff lost. Elias slowly looked at the child again. "You did this?" he asked quietly. The child did not answer immediately. Then she nodded once. Yes. No emotion. No pride. No regret. Just truth. Outside, the war machine suddenly shifted again. But this time, they did not attack. They turned, all at once, toward the underground facility. Every weapon in the region was now focusing on one point, the lab. Elias realized something terrible in that moment. This child was not being hunted. She was the one holding the battlefield hostage without even trying. And then she said something that changed everything again. "Don't let them take me." Her voice was small now, almost human. For the first time, Elias saw fear in her eyes, not fear of death, but fear of being taken back to whatever created her, back to the place where she learned what she was capable of. Elias lowered his weapon slightly, just a little. Outside, war machines waited in silence. Orbiting fleets locked their targeting systems on the planet. And deep inside the ruins, a human soldier stood between the galaxy's deadliest creation and the rest of the universe. The underground lab of Karen 9 remained silent. But it was not the same silence anymore. It was the kind of silence before a storm decides what it wants to destroy. Captain Elias Ward had lowered his weapon slightly, but not fully. His eyes stayed locked on the small alien child standing behind him. She was still holding onto his coat, like she was afraid the world would suddenly take him away. Outside the broken facility, war machines still stood frozen. Orbiting fleets above the planet kept their weapons aimed, waiting for a command that never came. The entire battlefield was stuck between destruction and something unknown. Elias did not trust the situation, but he also did not understand it. The child had already shown enough power to end a war. Yet here she was, hiding behind a human like she was the one who needed protection. That contradiction made everything worse. Why are you following me? Elias asked carefully. The child did not answer immediately. She looked down at the ground for a moment, like she was searching for words she never used before. Then she spoke softly. You didn't run. Elias frowned slightly. That's your answer? She nodded once. No one stays. Those words hit harder than any weapon. Elias slowly realized something important. This creature, this powerful being that could stop entire armies, had never been treated like something worth staying for. She was not just dangerous, she was abandoned, shaped by fear and controlled by pain, and somewhere inside all that destruction, she noticed one thing: a human who did not run away. Suddenly, a deep mechanical rumble echoed through the underground tunnels. The broken systems around them started activating again, not attacking, but responding, like something was scanning the facility from above. Elias tightened his grip on his rifle again. They're still coming, he said quietly. The child looked up immediately. Her eyes flickered faint blue again, but this time Elias noticed something different. The machines outside shifted again, but they did not fire. They waited, like they were listening to her emotions. Elias slowly realized the truth. Her control was not just technology, it was emotional: fear, anger, trust. Everything inside her affected the machines around her, and right now, she was scared. Elias took a slow breath, then lowered his weapon completely. The child flinched slightly, as if expecting betrayal. But nothing happened. No attack, no movement, no command from above, just silence. I'm not leaving, Elias said finally. The child blinked, confused. Why? She asked. Elias looked at her for a moment, then glanced around the destroyed lab. Because everything here was wrong. Because someone turned a child into a weapon. Because no one should exist like this. But he didn't say all that. Instead, he said something simpler. Because you're not a weapon right now. That statement changed something inside her. For the first time, she did not look like a system or a project. She looked like a child trying to understand a feeling she never learned. The machines outside the facility slowly began to power down again. Not because of commands, but because her emotional state shifted. Orbiting fleets detected it instantly. Commanders shouted in panic. Why are the war systems shutting down again? But no one had an answer. Inside the lab, Elias slowly moved toward a broken supply crate and sat down. He kept his distance, but he was no longer aiming at her. The child watched him carefully, like she did not trust the change. Then she slowly sat down too. Copying him, it was awkward, unnatural, like she was learning how to be human by watching one. Minutes passed, then hours. Outside, the war planet remained locked in silence. No side dared to move first, because one unknown variable had changed everything. A human was now inside the system, and the system had chosen him. Suddenly, a weak transmission broke through Elias's damaged communicator. Static filled the air, then a voice came through. Captain Ward, respond. It was human military. Elias looked at the device but did not answer immediately. The child immediately became alert again. Her eyes sharpened, her body tensed. The machines outside flickered back online for a moment. Elias noticed it instantly. Her fear was triggering everything again. He gently placed the communicator down. It's okay, he said calmly. The child stared at him. Don't go, she whispered again. Elias paused for a moment, then replied, I'm still here. And for the first time since the war began, the battlefield above them remained quiet. Because a child believed a human would stay. The silence inside the underground lab did not last forever. It never did on Karen 9. Silence here was just the space between two disasters. Captain Elias Ward sat near a broken metal crate, watching the alien child carefully. She was still sitting opposite him, copying his posture in a strange, uncertain way. Her glowing eyes never left him, as if looking away, even for a second, might make him disappear. Outside the lab, the world was still frozen in a strange balance. War machines stood idle across the ruins. Fleet weapons in orbit remained locked but inactive. And every military channel in the galaxy was filled with confusion. No one understood what was controlling the battlefield, but Elias was starting to understand something worse. It was not control, it was connection, and right now, that connection was tied to fear. The child suddenly flinched. Her body tensed like she felt something coming from far away. Elias noticed it immediately. "What is it?" he asked quietly. She did not answer. Her eyes slowly turned upward, like she could see through the ground, through the sky, into orbit itself. Then the entire lab shook. A deep mechanical sound echoed through the planet, not from inside the facility, but from deep underground systems waking up again. Elias stood instantly. "Not again," he whispered. Above them, the sky of Charon 9 lit up in sudden flashes. Massive ships had arrived in orbit, not the broken remnants of war, but fresh fleets, clean and organized. The Galactic Council had finally sent their response, and this time, they were not here to negotiate. Inside the lab, alarms that had been dead for years suddenly turned on. Red lights filled the broken tunnels. A cold automated voice echoed again. "Subject 0 confirmed active. Extermination protocol authorized." The child froze completely. Her breathing became shallow. Her small hand started trembling, and in that moment, Elias saw it clearly. She was not preparing to attack, she was preparing to break. Above the planet, massive orbital cannons began charging, the kind of weapons that erased cities in seconds. Fleet commanders spoke in cold voices. "Target the underground signature. Eliminate Subject 0 immediately." Elias realized what was about to happen. They were not trying to capture her, they were going to erase her. The child stepped back slowly, her eyes flickered violently now, unstable, overwhelmed. The machines outside responded instantly. War units began activating again, not controlled, but reacting to her panic. Elias stepped forward quickly. "Hey, look at me," he said firmly. She did not. Her voice came out broken. "They are here." Elias moved closer, ignoring the risk. "Listen to me," he said again, stronger. "You are not alone." That sentence stopped her movement for half a second. Above them, the orbital cannons finished charging. A countdown appeared in military networks across the galaxy. 10, 9, 8. Elias made a decision in that moment, not as a soldier, but as the only person standing between a child and extinction. He grabbed the broken communicator and forced a signal open. "This is Captain Elias Ward," he said loudly. "I am on Charon 9 with Subject 0. Stop the attack." Static filled the channel. Then a harsh voice replied, "Captain Ward, step away from the subject immediately." Elias looked at the child. She was shaking now, her power reacting instinctively to the fear around her. Machines outside began to awaken fully, responding to her emotional collapse. The battlefield was seconds away from total destruction. Elias spoke again. "You are about to kill a child." Silence followed. Then the response came colder. "That is not a child. It is a weapon." The child heard that, and something inside her broke further. Her eyes dimmed, and the entire planet began to respond violently. War machines across Charon 9 powered up at full strength. Orbiting fleets started losing control signals again. Elias turned immediately toward her. "No," he said sharply. "Do not believe that." She looked at him with confusion and pain. "What am I then?" she whispered. Elias hesitated for only a moment, then answered, "You're here, nothing more, nothing less." And for the first time, that answer reached her deeper than any command ever could. The machines across the planet paused again, just for a moment, but it was enough. Enough for the orbital countdown to stop at 3. Above them, entire fleets hesitated, because something unexpected was happening. The target was no longer just a weapon. It was reacting like a child being protected, and somewhere in the command chain, doubt began to spread. Inside the lab, the girl slowly stepped forward again, closer to Elias. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "If they come, will you stay?" Elias looked at her, and in that broken war zone, surrounded by machines that could destroy worlds, he answered simply, "Yes." And at that exact moment, the entire galaxy realized something terrifying. The weapon they built was no longer acting alone. The countdown in orbit had stopped, but the danger had not disappeared. It had only changed shape. Above Charon 9, Massive fleets still surrounded the planet like a cage made of metal and fire. Weapons stayed charged, ready to restart at any second. Inside the underground lab, Captain Elias Ward stood still, watching the alien child carefully. She was calmer now, but not safe. Not yet. Her glowing eyes no longer flickered wildly, but they still carried fear deep inside them, like a storm trying not to break again. Elias knew one thing for sure. If she lost control again, everything would end. Not just the planet, but the entire system. The child slowly sat down again, but this time closer to him. Not touching, but close enough to feel safe. Elias noticed it, but did not move away. Outside, the machines remained silent again, waiting for her next emotional shift. It was like the entire war was now breathing with her. Suddenly, a new transmission broke through. Stronger, cleaner, more powerful than before. This time it was not military voices. It was the Galactic Council. Captain Elias Ward. A cold voice spoke. You are ordered to terminate Subject Zero immediately. Elias did not respond right away. He looked at the child. She heard it too. Her small hands tightened slightly, but she did not move. The voice continued. That entity is responsible for multiple planetary system failures, billions of military losses, and unauthorized machine control across sectors. Do not treat it as a living being. Elias slowly stood up. His voice came back through the communicator, calm but firm. She is standing right here. A pause. Then the council responded. That is not relevant. Elias looked down at the child again, and for the first time, something inside him changed. Not fear, not confusion, but decision. He spoke again. Then you are blind. Silence hit the channel instantly. Inside the lab, the child looked up at him, confused. Why do they want me gone? She asked softly. Elias hesitated, then replied honestly, because they don't understand you. She tilted her head slightly. Do you? That question hit harder than any weapon in orbit. Elias did not answer immediately, because the truth was, he didn't fully understand her either. But he understood something more important. She was not choosing destruction. She was reacting to fear, pain, and control. And every time she was afraid, the galaxy tried to kill her for it. That was not justice. That was panic. Above them, the fleet commander gave a final order. Final strike authorization granted. Elias heard it clearly. And so did she. The child suddenly stood up again, her body tense. The entire underground system responded instantly, machines awakening in waves. Elias moved fast, stepping between her and the open tunnel leading upward. No, he said firmly. She looked at him. They are coming, she whispered. I know, Elias replied. But you are not alone. For a moment, everything stopped again. Even the machines outside paused. Even the fleet above hesitated. Because something inside the signal pattern had changed. The child was no longer just reacting. She was listening. Elias slowly reached into his broken communication device and accessed a hidden file he had never been authorized to open. Military clearance unlocked it automatically. A single word appeared on the screen. Project Origin. Subject Zero. Elias froze. The child noticed his expression immediately. What is it? She asked. Elias hesitated, then played the file aloud. A recorded scientist's voice filled the lab. Subject Zero is not a weapon in the traditional sense. It is a neural command bridge, designed to bond with a single compatible human host. Elias looked at the child slowly. The recording continued. The subject was never meant to operate alone. It requires emotional synchronization with a human anchor. Silence fell again. Elias whispered, "A human anchor." The child stepped closer slightly. Is that you? She asked quietly. Elias did not answer immediately, because everything suddenly made sense. Why she stopped the machines when he arrived, why she followed him, why she only trusted him. It was not random, it was design. She had been made to bond with him, not as a master, not as a controller, but as a connection above them. The Council fleet detected the file transmission instantly. Their response changed immediately. Terminate both subjects. The child heard it. Her fear spiked again. Machines across the planet began activating violently. Elias stepped closer quickly, grabbing her attention. "Look at me," he said strongly. She hesitated. "I am here," Elias said again. "You are not alone in this." Her eyes trembled. The entire battlefield was seconds away from collapse again. Then Elias made a decision that would change everything. He placed his hand gently in front of her, not as a threat, but as a choice. "If they want to kill you," he said calmly, "then they will have to go through me first." For the first time, the child did something unexpected. She did not activate the machines. She did not fight. She simply held his hand, and in that moment, the entire war system across Karen 9 stabilized again. Because Subject Zero was no longer alone, she had chosen her human anchor. And the galaxy had just discovered something terrifying. The most dangerous weapon they ever created was no longer under their control. It was under his protection. The moment Elias Ward held the child's hand, the entire battlefield changed again. But this time, it was not chaos. It was control returning in a way no one expected. Above Karen 9, the massive fleet of the Galactic Council stayed locked in formation. Weapons still charged, still aimed, but no one fired. Because something inside their systems kept failing every time they tried to confirm the final order. It was as if the planet itself refused to accept destruction. Inside the underground lab, silence returned again. But it felt different now, less like fear, and more like waiting. The alien child stood close to Elias, her small fingers still holding his hand tightly. She did not speak, but she was no longer shaking. Her emotional state had stabilized, and with it, every machine on the planet had stopped reacting violently. Elias slowly realized something important. She was not just controlling machines, she was syncing with them. Her emotions were becoming the language of war itself. Outside, deep under the ruined cities of Karen 9, something massive started to move. Old dormant war structures, buried for centuries, began activating one by one. Not from command signals, but from her presence. The ground trembled slightly. Elias felt it too. "This is getting worse," he whispered. The child looked up at him. "I didn't do it," she said softly. Elias believed her, because for once, it didn't feel like control. It felt like reaction, like the planet itself was remembering her. Suddenly, a new transmission came through. But this time it was not the Council. It was fragmented military chatter. "Unknown systems activating beneath surface. We are losing orbital stability. Something is waking up under the planet." Elias frowned. "Under the planet?" he repeated. The child slowly stepped away from him, just slightly. Her eyes changed again, not aggressive, but confused. "I don't know that place," she said. Then, without warning, the entire underground lab lights flickered violently. And deep below them, something answered. A massive mechanical sound echoed through the core of the planet. Not new machines, but old ones. Ancient war titans buried beneath Karen 9 began powering up after centuries of sleep. Elias froze. "That's not you, is it?" he asked quickly. The child shook her head. "No." Her voice sounded unsure for the first time. Above the planet, Council fleets detected the activation spike instantly. Impossible. One commander whispered, "Those systems were destroyed in the First War." But the readings were real. Entire planetary defense structures were coming online, without command input. Inside the lab, Elias made a quick decision. "Stay behind me," he said firmly. The child obeyed immediately, stepping closer again. The bond between them was now clearly stabilizing the surface systems. But something deeper was awakening beneath them. A low mechanical roar echoed again, louder this time. The ground cracked slightly near the lab entrance. Elias raised his weapon again, but there was nothing to shoot yet. Then a new voice echoed through every broken system. Not human, not alien, not machine. Something older. Anchor detected. Elias looked around sharply. "What is that?" he asked. The child blinked slowly. "I think." "It knows me," she whispered. Suddenly, a massive underground structure opened beneath the lab floor. Ancient lights illuminated a hidden chamber that had been sealed for centuries. Inside it stood enormous dormant warframes, taller than buildings, connected to the planet's core. Elias stared in shock. "This whole planet is a weapon system," he said quietly. The child stepped forward slightly, almost pulled by instinct. Elias grabbed her hand again, stopping her. "No," he said firmly. The systems responded immediately to that contact, stabilizing again. The ancient machines paused. Then the same voice echoed again. "Anchor confirmed, primary user accepted." Elias turned slowly toward the child. "What did you do?" he asked softly. She looked confused, almost scared. "I didn't do anything." Above them, Council fleets began to panic. Planetary core defense systems are linking to unknown life form. Target is now overriding orbital command structure. Elias realized the truth in that moment. The war was no longer about destroying her. It was about controlling what she had awakened. The child slowly tightened her grip on Elias's hand again. "They're angry," she whispered. Elias nodded slightly. "Yes," he said, "but we are still here." And for the first time, the ancient systems beneath the planet stopped reacting with aggression. Because for the first time in centuries, the anchor was not alone. It had chosen a human to stand with it. The entire planet of Karen 9 was no longer just a battlefield. It had become something far worse. And far older. A sleeping system of war had fully awakened beneath the surface. Ancient machines connected to the core of the planet now responded to one thing only: the presence of Subject Zero and her human anchor. Captain Elias Ward stood inside the underground chamber, still holding the child's hand. But now his hand was shaking slightly, not from fear of her, but from the scale of what was waking up around them. Massive structures rose from beneath the ground. Mechanical towers that looked like cities turned into weapons. Their lights activated one by one, deep, slow. Like eyes opening after a long sleep, the air itself felt heavier. Like the planet was breathing again after centuries of silence. The alien child stepped closer to Elias instinctively, her small fingers tightening around his hand again. "I didn't know this was here," she whispered. Elias looked around carefully. "I believe you," he said quietly. But the problem was not trust anymore. It was control, above the planet. The Galactic Council fleet had fully locked onto the source of the activation. Every ship in orbit was now charging their final weapons, not because they wanted to negotiate, but because they understood one thing. If this system fully activated, no fleet in the galaxy would be safe. A cold voice echoed across all military channels. Final directive issued. Erase the anchor point. Inside the underground chamber. Elias heard it clearly through his broken communicator. The child heard it too. Her body tensed again instantly. The ancient machines beneath them reacted immediately. Lights flickered violently. Systems shifting toward combat mode. Elias stepped in front of her without thinking. "Stop," he said firmly. The systems paused again, but only slightly, like they were waiting for confirmation. The child looked up at him. "Why do they always want to erase me?" she asked softly. Elias hesitated, then answered honestly. "Because they are afraid of what they don't control." She blinked slowly. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she said. That sentence changed everything for a moment. The machines around them stabilized again. The ground stopped shaking. Even orbiting systems lost aggression signals for a few seconds. But fear above the planet was already too strong. A massive orbital cannon began aligning directly over the underground chamber. One strike was enough to destroy everything. Elias realized there was no more time. He turned to the child. "Listen to me," he said quickly. She looked at him immediately, fully focused. "This system responds to you, right?" he asked. She nodded slightly. "And it responds to me when I stay with you," he continued. She nodded again, unsure where he was going. Elias took a slow breath. "Then we don't fight it. We guide it." The child tilted her head. "Guide it?" Elias squeezed her hand gently. "Together," he said. For a moment, everything paused again. Then something inside the ancient system responded differently. Instead of preparing for destruction, it shifted into a neutral alignment state. Orbiting fleets detected it instantly. Unknown signal pattern change. "Target is stabilizing?" Inside the chamber, the ground stopped shaking completely. The massive war structures beneath Karen 9 stopped activating in combat mode. Instead, they began sinking, with her emotions and his presence. The child looked around slowly, confused. It's listening, she whispered. Elias nodded. Yes, he said. But it is not listening to just you anymore. Above them, the orbital cannon reached final firing stage. Fire in 10 seconds. Elias looked up slightly, even though he could not see the ships. Then he made the final choice. He stepped closer to the child and placed both hands around her small ones. No more fear, he said softly. I am here. The child closed her eyes for a moment, and something changed across the entire planet. The ancient war system did not activate. It did not attack. It did not destroy. It waited for instruction that was not violence. Above Karen 9, every fleet suddenly lost targeting lock. Systems flickered, then went neutral. The orbital cannon stopped mid-charge. Confusion spread instantly across command channels. Target signal is gone. Systems are refusing engagement. Inside the chamber, the child slowly opened her eyes, and for the first time she was not afraid. She looked at Elias and whispered again, "That human is mine." But this time, it was not a command, it was a choice. And the entire war machine network across Karen 9 responded with a single unified state, stable. Because for the first time in history, a living weapon did not choose destruction. She chose connection, and the human standing beside her became the key that stopped a galaxy from burning.